a childhood beside a wonderful mother, though not by blood. If you've ever believed that the greatest kind of love must come from those who share your blood, then Daniela's story might just change your mind. Because in her heart, the most amazing mother in the world wasn't the one who gave birth to her, but the one who chose her. Elena didn't carry Daniela in her womb, but she carried her through every hardship of life with unwavering love. She wasn't her biological mother, but she was, in every sense that mattered, her true mom. Daniela doesn't remember the exact moment she first met Elena, but one memory never fades: the warm hand that reached out to hers in the cold, colorless orphanage, the gentle eyes that looked down and whispered, "You'll never be alone again." From that moment, Daniela's life turned a new page. No more sleepless nights curled up in silence. No more watching other kids be picked up and wondering, when will it be my turn? She had a mother now, not by blood, but by love. They lived in a small apartment nestled in a quiet coastal city. There was nothing fancy about it, no luxury, no extravagance, but every corner of that little home overflowed with care. The walls, the furniture, even the tiny flower pots on the balcony seemed to radiate warmth. Elena worked as a janitor at a local school. Not a job many admired, but one she did with pride. It was her way of raising Daniela, with her own two hands, with dignity and resilience. Though life was hard, Elena never let Daniela feel unloved. Meals were simple, sometimes just soup and bread, but always served with warmth. Clothes were hand-me-downs, but freshly washed and folded with love. Every morning, Daniela would wake up to the smell of breakfast and the soft voice of Elena. "Good morning, my princess." At times, Daniela noticed her mother's hands, calloused, blistered, or the worn-out sweater she wore year after year. But Elena never once complained. She never said, "I'm tired." She just kept giving, loving, and turning that modest home into the safest place on earth. Daniela never met her biological parents, and she never felt the need to. Elena filled every space in her heart. When people asked, "Don't you want to know who your real parents are?" she would smile and reply, "I already have a mom." To her, Elena was the complete definition of motherhood. A woman who didn't have to love her, but did. Who chose her, not out of duty, but from the purest part of her heart. As a child, Daniela once asked with innocent curiosity, "Why did you choose me? There were so many other kids at the orphanage." Elena brushed her hair and said, "Because in your eyes, I saw the bravest little girl. I knew right then we belonged together." That sentence never left Daniela. For the first time, she felt chosen, not out of pity, but because of love. At school, Daniela faced teasing. Kids would laugh at her hand-me-down clothes, mock her for not having real parents, whisper that she was adopted. One day, she came home in tears. Elena didn't scold her or get angry. She simply held her tight and said, "There are two ways to become a mother. One is through blood. The other is through love. And I chose you because I love you, and that love is just as real." Those words were a fire that kept Daniela warm for years. No matter how cold the outside world was, she always had that warmth to return to. Elena never had much money, but she was there for everything that mattered. Every parent-teacher conference, every dance recital, every scraped knee and school exam. No one else could see the little things she did, but Daniela did. She saw the worry in her eyes when she was sick, the pride when she brought home good grades, the long nights Elena spent sewing an old dress so she could have something nice to wear at New Year. Elena didn't do grand gestures. She just showed up. every single day. And in those small, quiet acts, she built a childhood full of safety and love. As Daniela grew older, she began to understand loving a child not your own requires a special kind of courage. Elena gave up everything, her time, her comfort, even her youth, to give Daniela a home. She wasn't just a caretaker. She was a teacher, a protector, a best friend, a whole world in one person. And strangely, the more Daniela lived within that love, the luckier she felt. Not everyone is born into love, but Daniela was chosen to be loved, not by obligation, but by the deepest kind of devotion. And that is the greatest gift of all. If you were to ask Daniela today, who is your real mother? She would smile, her voice steady with pride, and say, I don't have a birth mother. I have Elena. Sometimes just a passing comment, unintended, harmless, can tear apart everything we once believed was unshakable. It was a quiet afternoon like any other. The sun was gently pouring light onto the porch, and the distant sound of waves hummed a familiar lullaby from the sea. Daniela, 17 at the time, was helping her mother clean the windows when their neighbor dropped by with some homemade pastries. The conversation was light. School, the weather, the family that had just moved away. Then the neighbor glanced at Daniela, smiled warmly, and said offhandedly, She looks more and more like her father. Like, her father? No one thought much of it. No one except Daniela. That one simple sentence struck her like a lightning bolt in the middle of a calm sky. Her father? But what father? She had never met him, never even wondered, because for as long as she could remember, her mother Elena had always told her with that soothing voice, It's just the two of us, and that's enough. And like a trusting child, Daniela believed that was all she ever needed to know. That night, the dinner table felt strange. Not because the food tasted any different, but because the air was heavier. Elena was unusually quiet. Daniela said nothing either, but inside the storm had already begun. Finally, unable to hold it in, she softly asked, almost a whisper, Do I really look like him? Elena froze. She slowly put her chopsticks down, her face pale, her eyes full of conflict. Then, with a sigh that carried decades of silence, she nodded, gently. But that was all it took for Daniela's world to shatter. Elena had no choice. She knew it was time to speak the truth she had hoped to bury forever, that Daniela was not her biological daughter. That one winter night, a tiny baby was left at the steps of an orphanage, and that she, Elena, was the woman who walked in, cradled that child in her arms, and whispered, Mommy's here. Daniela didn't respond, but her eyes said everything. In that moment, the foundation of her entire life, trust, memories, belonging, was cracked wide open. How could it be? If she wasn't Elena's biological child, then what had their life meant? Was it real love or just pity? Was it blood or just duty? She walked out into the night without another word. That evening, Daniela sat alone on a park bench, one she and Elena used to visit when she was little. But this time, the night felt colder. The trees around her didn't feel comforting anymore. They whispered questions she couldn't answer. Inside, a chaos brewed. Shock, anger, sadness, confusion. She felt betrayed, not by lies, but by the silence. The next morning, she packed a small bag. On the kitchen table, she left a short note. I need to find myself. Don't worry, I'll be okay. Elena read the note and sat still. She didn't cry, perhaps because her tears had already run dry from years of silent love. She knew where Daniela was going. She was searching for her birth mother, not out of hate, but because she needed closure. She needed to understand where she came from. And though it tore her heart apart, Elena didn't stop her. Because a true mother is one who lets her child go, even when it hurts like hell. With nothing more than a backpack, a copy of her birth records, and a fragile hope, Daniela set off on a journey to uncover her roots. She visited the orphanage, where the records were faded and incomplete. She knocked on the doors of social service offices, flipped through dusty files, asked countless strangers for help. Every vague answer led her deeper into a maze of uncertainty. But she didn't give up. Not just to find a woman from her past, but to find a piece of herself. Along the way, Daniela met others like her. People who'd grown up with unanswered questions, souls that had once shattered under the weight of secrets. Some had found their birth families, others hadn't. But all of them shared one truth, that where you come from is only a part of the story. What truly defines you is who walked beside you all those years. Who stayed when no one else did. Who loved you when they didn't have to. And in the quiet of one late-night train ride, staring through the black window into the unknown, Daniela finally saw it clearly. Maybe what she was looking for wasn't her real mother. Maybe it was understanding, belonging, the freedom to accept her story fully. That train didn't just carry her through towns and cities. It carried her toward a deeper truth, one she had resisted for so long. The truth that love doesn't always come from shared blood. Sometimes it comes from sleepless nights by your bedside, from every sacrificed meal to buy you a book, from every whispered prayer when you're late coming home. And Elena, though she didn't give birth to Daniela, had raised her with a love that could move mountains. The journey to her birth mother, and a harsh truth. The road to Elmer's Bay was long and quiet, winding through sleepy hills and sun-faded towns. Daniela sat by the bus window, clutching a small photograph she had managed to obtain, a faded, grainy image of the woman who had brought her into this world. For weeks, she had imagined this moment. The first embrace, the tears, the apologies, the long-awaited reunion, where all the missing pieces would fall into place. She had dreamed of hearing words like, "I've missed you," or "I never stopped thinking about you." In her heart, hope burned like a fragile candle, flickering through the winds of uncertainty. When she finally arrived in Elmer's Bay, the town looked nothing like she imagined. It was modest, almost sleepy. There was no grand drama in the air, just the rustling of leaves and the distant hum of life moving on. She found the address. A small, tidy house with a white porch and wind chimes swaying in the sea breeze. With trembling hands, she knocked. The door creaked open. A woman in her late 40s stood before her, poised, elegant, and visibly surprised. Daniela introduced herself softly. "My name is Daniela. I think you're my mother." The woman's face stiffened. Silence fell like a stone between them. They sat inside for only a few minutes. No tea was offered, no hug, no tears. "I'm sorry," the woman finally said, her voice cold and rehearsed. "That was a part of my life I've left behind. I have my own family now, my own life." Daniela's heart sank. She stared at the woman who had once carried her for 9 months, who had given her life, and now was erasing her presence as if it never mattered. "I just wanted to know, why?" Daniela asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman sighed, looked away, and simply said, "I did what I had to do. I was young, scared, and alone. I don't regret my decision. You were taken care of, weren't you?" Those words cut deeper than Daniela expected. She had imagined rejection before, but not this coldness, not this complete detachment. It wasn't anger that filled her. It was a hollow kind of ache, a feeling of being completely and utterly invisible. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. Daniela stood up, nodded politely, and walked away. The wind outside felt different now, sharper, colder, indifferent. Her steps were heavy as she wandered through the unfamiliar streets. It was as if the town itself was pushing her away. For the first time in her life, Daniela felt like she had no place to belong. Not here. Not there. Not anywhere. On a quiet bench by the ocean, she sat alone as the sun began to set. The waves crashed without sympathy. The sky faded into bruised purples and golds, and the world kept turning. She thought about Elena, her real mother in every way that mattered. The woman who had fed her, bathed her, stayed up with her during fevers, celebrated her little wins, cried over her failures. Daniela remembered the way Elena would always wait up when she was out late, pretending not to worry but peeking through the window every 5 minutes. And now, as she stared into the horizon, she finally understood. Biology doesn't define love. Blood doesn't guarantee kindness. And being a mother isn't something you are, it's something you choose to be every single day. Daniela had gone looking for the truth, and she found it. But it wasn't wrapped in warmth or reunion. It came cold, hard, and sobering, yet strangely it gave her clarity. She wasn't lost. She was free. The message sent back, and the first hug after all the mistakes. In the loneliest moment, when everything seemed to collapse, Daniela decided to open her phone and send a short message filled with her heart. I'm sorry. I want to come home. Those words were not just the sigh of a tired daughter after so many storms, but also a plea to be protected, to be carried back into the arms of the only mother she had ever known. Soon after, a reply from her mother Elena appeared. The door is always open. Come home, dear. Just 3 simple words carrying the strength of the entire ocean, gentle and warm, like a promise without conditions or blame. It was an invitation for Daniela to return, to heal the wounds that hadn't yet closed. When Daniela came back to the small old house, there was no scolding, no anger, only the tight, warm hug of her mother, as if wanting to make up for all the past hurts and emptiness. Elena held her daughter for a long time, as if wanting to hold on to every second of this reunion. And in the kitchen, the aroma of hot soup began to spread, like a magic potion that soothed all the tiredness, all the resentment, and all the mistakes Daniela thought could never be forgiven. That was the first hug after many months apart, an unspoken forgiveness, a love of a mother without conditions. And in that moment, Daniela understood that no matter how far life pushed her away, family, there was always waiting for her, with open arms and a heart that never stopped loving. Learning to forgive and understanding what it means to be a real mother. Daniela's journey led her to a profound realization. The woman who gave her life was not necessarily the one who mothered her soul. It was Elena, her foster mother, who had nurtured her, protected her, preserved, and loved her unconditionally through every hardship. One quiet afternoon, Elena brought out an old wooden box, worn by time but precious beyond measure. Inside were faded photographs, tiny clothes Daniela had worn as a baby, and official papers marking the day she was legally welcomed into Elena's family. As Daniela carefully touched each item, memories swirled. Memories of laughter, tears, warmth, and endless sacrifices made by Elena. In this intimate moment, Daniela began to understand the true essence of motherhood. It was not written in DNA or bound by blood, but forged in the choices one makes every day. The choice to love, to stay, to protect, and to sacrifice without condition. It was the quiet strength in Elena's embrace during nights of fear, the gentle hands that wiped away her tears, and the unwavering presence through every joy and sorrow. Daniela's heart opened wide, releasing the pain of abandonment and filling with forgiveness, not only toward her birth mother, but also toward herself. She saw now that forgiveness was not forgetting, but a gift she gave herself to heal and move forward. And in this healing, she honored Elena as her true mother, the woman who chose her, fought for her, and shaped the very person she had become. This understanding reshaped Daniela's view of family, love, and belonging, teaching her that sometimes the deepest bonds are chosen, not born. Growing stronger through pain. The journey of healing. After everything she had been through, Daniela returned to school and to her daily life, but something inside her had changed forever. She was no longer the same fragile girl who once questioned her place in the world. The pain she had carried became a source of strength, a silent fire fueling her determination to live fully and fearlessly. Each day, Daniela embraced the challenges with a new courage, knowing that her scars were part of her story, not marks of weakness, but badges of resilience. Her bond with Elena deepened in ways words could hardly capture. The simple moments, the shared meals, the quiet talks, the warm embraces, became powerful acts of healing. Those ordinary, everyday interactions wove a tapestry of love and trust that mended the wounds of the past. In Elena's arms, Daniela found safety and acceptance, a place where she could be wholly herself without fear. Though the shadow of her birth mother's rejection still lingered, Daniela's feelings had transformed. What once was pain and confusion had softened into a tender understanding. She no longer held anger or resentment, but rather compassion for the complexities of a life she hadn't chosen. This empathy freed her from the chains of bitterness, allowing her to move forward with an open heart. In the end, Daniela's journey wasn't just about finding her origins. It was about discovering the true meaning of family, love, and forgiveness. Through her trials, she grew stronger, wiser, and more whole. And with every step, she embraced the healing power of love that transcends blood and binds souls together forever. Life doesn't always give us everything we wish for, but it always offers us something truly precious through the relationships we build. The one who nurtures, cares for, and loves us unconditionally is the most wonderful mother, whether she is our birth mother or not. Motherly love isn't measured by blood ties alone. It's measured by genuine love, sacrifice, and the countless days spent standing by our side, even when the whole world turns away. A mother is the one who stays, who watches over every small step we take on life's long journey, who gives us strength when we feel weak, shields us when we stumble, and opens her arms to hold us tight when we need it most. Elena, my foster mother, didn't just give me life. She taught me how to live. She taught me how to love with all my heart, how to forgive when I fall, and how to be brave enough to keep moving forward, despite the hardships and challenges life throws at us. True motherly love is a long journey of care, compassion, and silent sacrifice, and that is the greatest gift I have ever received in my life. There were times when I thought about my birth mother, about the rejection I once faced, but I came to realize that love doesn't always come from where we expect. The person who gave birth to us may not be the one who keeps us close, may not be the one who follows every step we take, and may not be the one who gives us the warmest motherly love. I learned that a real mother is someone who chooses to love, chooses to stay, and chooses to walk with us. A mother is someone who never fears hardship or difficulty, someone who accepts our flaws to help us grow every day. A mother is the one who gives us a home, not just walls and a roof, but a heart full of love. Through my journey of growing up, I realized that love cannot be forced, cannot be bought with money, nor can it be measured by blood relations. Love is a choice, a commitment, a persistence that stays with us through our loneliest moments. A foster mother may not share the same blood, but she chose me, accepted me, and walked with me through every storm. That is true love, the unconditional, sincere love any child could ever hope for. I remember the simple meals with Elena, the warm little stories, the gentle hugs that healed all the wounds inside me. She was not just a mother, but also my closest friend and my first teacher, who taught me the most important lessons about life. I learned how to forgive, how to let go of resentment, and how to find peace within myself. And more than anything, I learned that no matter where I go or how life changes, a mother's love is the only place where I can always come back to, the strongest support for every step I take. I want to express my deepest gratitude to all mothers, whether birth mothers or foster mothers, who never stop loving, sacrificing, and protecting us. Motherly love is a miracle, the warmest flame in life, the strength that helps us overcome every difficulty, and the inspiration that makes us better every day. If you are listening to this story and have a mother beside you, cherish her and love her deeply. If you feel lost or alone, remember that love still exists somewhere, and you deserve to be loved more than anything in this world. If you find Daniela's story about motherhood, choice, forgiveness, and love beyond all limits meaningful and inspiring, please give us a like. Share this episode so many more people can hear and feel it. Don't forget to subscribe to Kunzy Podcast English to never miss another touching story and valuable life lesson that we continue to share. Every bit of your support motivates us to keep bringing meaningful content, helping you not only learn English, but also learn how to live, love, and grow. Join Kunzy Podcast English on a journey to discover ordinary yet powerful stories, life lessons everyone needs to hear to feel comforted, inspired, and encouraged to become the best version of themselves. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next episode.